One could say that I have a type. As you can see, we have two-door hatchbacks, except for that one, but the rear end resembles a hatchback. Sorry, love bug, love bug. These guys are everywhere right now. If you are not familiar with the Florida love bug, they will destroy the paint on your car. Today, we will be driving the 87 Supra Mark III 7M, fully built VG30 twin turbo, B20 VTEC swap CRX, if you are not familiar, and the old reliable daily BRZ FA20 2.0 liter boxer motor. I will give you the cons of each and every car and why I don't like them for certain reasons, and why I prefer one over the other for different reasons. For instance, none of my actual project cars have AC. Now, to be honest with you, I dailied this car for 3 years without AC. I dailied the CRX for another 4 years without AC before I finally got the BRZ. And obviously, like before I got the Z, I had another CRX for 2 to 3 years. So I spent basically the first 10 years of my driving adulthood without AC, or a working radio for that matter. I had more fun modifying the cars to go faster than I did to even think or care about AC. Plus I had plenty of other noises to keep me entertained. For starters, we're gonna start off with the Mark III Supra, just because I feel like it. I feel like going on a ride in it. So buckle up and let's get this thing started today. But first, before we get into today's video, be sure to head on over to the website, billybuilds.com. I got fresh merchandise on there. Well, kind of fresh. These were actually just put on there a couple weeks ago. They are up and ready to be purchased. I got some other ones that are not here in front of me right now. This has kind of been the go-to. It is actually my favorite. And then I also have this one, which actually has my own car on it. So head on over, check out the website. I'll put the link down in the description below. But let's get into today's video, guys. Obviously, it's a pretty basic setup. It is still the 7M GTE. It's still the stock turbo. I literally just got this car probably about a month ago. Only thing I've done to it is valve covers and ARP studs. It does have a catback exhaust. Primary thing that I really love about this car is that it sounds beautiful. Only thing I don't care about it engine-wise, one could say, oh, but the 7M, why not a 2JZ? I kind of have a weak point for the underdog motors. In case you can't tell, I have a 7M instead of a 2JZ. I have a VG30 instead of a LS 2JZ. I have a B series instead of a K series. I am prone to liking things that just most people don't like. Part of my type. Moving on. So we're gonna stick with the 7M on this car. One could say, oh, but that's gonna keep you from making X amount of power. I don't really wanna turn this car into a power monster. I have no need to, I have this. The Z is more than enough for me for the street, and I think it'll do the job just fine. Everything's mostly stock, just some silicone pipes, stock turbo. It does have a super sequential blow-off valve, which normally I find those very obnoxious. I cannot stand obnoxious blow-off valves because most people, when they get them, they always want to, well, psh and psh and psh, you know. Everything on the engine, for the most part, I think is great. I can hop in this car at any point, turn the key, and it'll start. And the fact that you don't see these very much anymore makes it all the better. One more thing that drives me absolutely insane about this Supra is the wheels. They're stock wheels. I'm not totally opposed to them, but they've been painted black. Honestly, I don't like black wheels, believe it or not. My BRZ has black wheels. I don't really care for them. Another thing on the outside that drives me absolutely nuts is if you look at this spoiler, it's got a little bit of flare to it. And then if you look at this side, it's flat. The side skirt is it's stock on this side, and it's got the Kaminari side skirt on this side, which why? Somebody must have destroyed the one on that side, or they forgot what they were doing halfway through. So if anybody has Kaminari side skirts just laying around, hit up your boy, let me know. I'll buy it from you. Anyways, enough talking, enough looking at it. Let's hop in it and go for a drive. I'm not gonna lie, this car smells and looks and sounds the part of your stereotypical 90s Japanese car. I love it. So proper, it's just right. The coolest thing about this car is it's comfy. I have never been more comfy, honestly, in any of my cars. It drives smooth, it runs good. Did I mention it sounds good? I'm not gonna lie, the car doesn't have AC. It has a radio in it, however, which is kind of a first for me when it comes to buying a car this old. The radio turns on every time I turn the car on, but I always turn it off. The symphony that comes out the exhaust of this is all I really care to listen to. Because it is good. Oh yeah. And the turbo noises are nice too. The last time I hopped on the highway, one of the under shields, aero shields underneath the car kind of fell off. It's kind of my second time trying it since that happened. Go out the window. If I can, oh, there we go. The window still works, which is freaking awesome. The Supra, the 300ZX, cars like these, everyone hated on them because they were a little bit heavier, but forget. These cars were meant for power. They were powerhouses back in the day. They were meant to cruise at high speeds down the highway. One more thing I forgot to mention that drives me absolutely nuts with this car is the pedals. Problem with the pedals is they're a little large, and the brake pedal sits kind of close to the gas. So when I step on the brake sometimes, I catch myself pressing on the gas. Super annoying. Notice a trend with all of my cars, not one of them are loud. At least not super loud. The Z I think might be the loudest, but even then when you're cruising, it's not overbearing. As many of you may know, the CRX, while it may not be my nicest car, is probably not my favorite, but it's very close to my favorite next to the Z. I would love to just daily drive this car, but unfortunately it definitely needs tires because the tires are about at least 8 years old all around. I actually bought new wheels for this car like 8 months ago that I haven't told you guys about. They're a very kind of period correct wheel for this car, I will say. The plan for this car is to completely repaint it and basically go through and refinish the entire car because it has a lot of little flaws that are mostly cosmetic. One thing being this door. Not sure if you can see it from there, but the door is latched, although technically it's not really latched. Also, the steering wheel is actually out of a Honda Integra because it does have a Honda badge in it and it is a Type R steering wheel. And the gauges is just a wideband Innovate gauge and then an oil pressure gauge that doesn't work. I don't think it's ever actually worked, to be honest. The biggest problem I have with this car is mostly the color and the interior, mainly the seats, which I have new seats for the car. They are sitting in the shed. I have new door cards for the car. They are also sitting in the shed. I think that's it, mostly it. So, believe it or not, yes, the CRX does in fact still drive. Hasn't been on the channel much very lately because, well, I just haven't been doing too much to it. Now, in all honesty, the car had some problems that need to be kind of worked out. The tune still needs to be touched up on it. You know what? That's kind of the whole point of calling it a project car. Actually, I wouldn't be making this video here today if there wasn't things wrong with the car. If you don't know, this car is a B20 bottom end with a Type R head. The car should be making just over 200 horsepower. This car is actually on some Skunk 2 Tuner 2, so they're stage 2 cams. I always hated to say like, oh, my VTEC pops so hard, but my God, does this thing have the loudest VTEC engagement I have ever heard from inside a car. A little bit of VTEC. Oh, I love it. When I built this car, my whole goal was for it to just be simple, reliable. It's not necessarily a comfy car. Like, the seats are still the original seats. They're tearing. They need to be replaced. The paint needs to be painted. I just wanted it to be a good driving car, which I would say we've successfully completed. It just puts a smile on your face. Oh. Normal Honda things, right? Always missing third. The third gear in this transmission has always been bad. Always. Before I got it. But my God, is this thing running good right now. There are certain things with this car that you just can't understand by looking at it on paper or seeing it in a video. Another nice thing about this car is, I'm quite proud of it, the exhaust. I don't know how good or bad it sounds from the outside, but it is very quiet for what it is. Hello guys. It's a little toasty today. Hard to believe, I used to daily drive this thing. I'd take my wife in this car. Had no AC, no radio, worn out seats. Like, man, oh, so many good memories. Here we are. I just keep buying more cars. All right, you guys, the Nissan, it's been a long time coming on this channel. Well, not only for the channel, just for me in general. I've had this car for about 15 years, so you can say I'm kind of partial to it over a lot of the others. If you guys have followed the channel, you know the lowdown on the motor, the transmission. It's T56 transmission, and this thing is tight. Engine's running good. It's still on a semi-fresh rebuild. Built bottom end, built head. Obviously twin turbo, mirror image turbos actually, if you didn't know. And yeah, car should be sitting at a happy like 550, 600 wheel horsepower right now on wastegate. So let's take this thing on a quick cruise and see what we got. Oh, I can tell you already some of the things I don't really like about the car is that my interior, my glove box, is still apart. I'm gonna be honest though, I fixed that. Actually, it's inside. I just haven't put it back in the car. I took care of the latch and everything. And obviously, I got my interior torn apart right here still. I just haven't put it back together. I'm very limited on time lately, you guys. Bear with me here. I do love the clutch in this car, the transmission in this car. They drive fantastic. It feels like it came in the car this way. And it's a Tremec T56 Magnum XL with a McLeod RX T1200 clutch. Got a very nasty road here. The McLeod RX T1200, if you don't know, is a twin disc clutch. I'll link it up here in the top right for you. The suspension in the car is not too bad. It's not too overbearing. The car does feel quite heavy, especially for right now, considering I still don't have my power steering working in the car. Eventually, I'll get the power steering working, but as of lately, I haven't had time. Other than that, the car runs really good for what it is. Keep in mind, this car has built heads, built bottom end, like, it's ready to go. I'll tell you what, it freaking moves. I love the sound of these open wastegates. Some people might say it's a little bit too loud, but in all honesty, it hits just right. Second gear around 30. Yeah. It sounds good. Had a nice little backfire there. Wonder what that looked like from the back end. Man, you guys, this thing gets it. I love this car. Just play with the wastegates. Right as they start to open up, shift. Oh, it sounds so good. I still don't have my speedometer working, so that is also a problem. I thought I fixed it, honestly, last weekend while I was up under the car. Thought it might be just 2 wires you switch around, but apparently not. So, car has no speedometer. I have never had an overheating issue since I switched over to the electric fan, which I know a lot of people are concerned with. I've never had a problem with it. I'm sick and tired of these gauges. I have oil pressure, flex fuel, and a dual channel can wideband for my air fuels for both banks of cylinders. It's not even turned on, it's not even plugged in. It's just a big wiring mess behind it. I don't like it. I don't like dealing with it. This car drives phenomenally for, I mean, all things considered. I've touched almost every nut and bolt on the car except for the rear end. The entire rear end in this car is like 100% stock. Oh yeah, she boogies. If I can get the power steering working in it and get AC in this car, and the heat, I'm starting to feel the heat come up through the floorboard again. This car gets very, very hot after a while of driving it, especially at higher RPM. I gotta do something about the heat, which I have something at home. That's probably gonna be an upcoming video for you guys. Heat management. Once this thing gets up to speed, once it gets on the highway, it runs super nice. It's just a smooth highway cruiser. Kind of like the Supra. Like I say, the Supra is just a comfy car to just hop in and just go. The Z here, however, you could say the same thing about it. It just requires a little bit more work. For instance, this seat that I'm sitting in, not the easiest thing to get in and out of. Skip on the Sparco Sprints. So when I'm getting into this car, my knees are like inches away from the steering wheel. I want something that's low, sits low, like this, but something a little bit easier to get in and out of. Man, I have a lot of negative things to say about this car for what it is, in all honesty. You know, at the end of the day, it comes down to, like, for every modification you do to a vehicle, you pretty much have to guarantee that you're sacrificing something, unless you're willing to spend a lot of money. I can't believe I built this. You guys watched me build this car in my garage. If I can do it, anyone can do it. The information is out there. The videos are now there. Hop on YouTube, go to Billy Built, say I want to build a 300ZX this year. And you can literally copy and paste most of the parts that are in this build, or at least something very close to it. So I'm gonna keep the BRZ short and sweet here because, well, there's not too much to say, honestly. It's mostly stock BRZ. It does have some very subtle modifications to it that, well, I guess there's a little more than what meets the eye. It is a stock intake, stock header. It is a Perrin 2.5-inch exhaust catback only, stock header, so it is still a factory equal length with the catalytic converters and all that fun stuff. I've had the exhaust on this car for like 9 years. I love it. I love the sound of it. Honestly, like you would expect, the biggest thing I hate about the BRZ is it's a little sluggish. Honestly, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. Like highway stuff, nah, forget it. Just totally forget it. Anything faster than like 40, 50 miles an hour in the car, don't expect a thrill or a rush. So I've taken this car to the tail of the dragon once, and that's where it shines. This car loves those short, windy roads in the mountains. It's where it's meant to be. Honestly, if you have a BRZ FRS GT86, take it to the tail of the dragon, take it to some windy mountain roads, and just drive it. You will gain new respect for these cars. Aside from everything that I like about it, because it's got AC, it's comfy, it's a fun drive, it's not fast, but again, it's fun. We like fun. I love fun cars.
I love lamp. I love lamp.
A few things that I've really had problems with is the paint, the throwout bearing, which involves pulling the transmission, so that was not fun. I'm trying to think of other things that I hate about this car, and honestly, there isn't much. It's mostly just the power, which the plan for this year is to boost it. However, life happens, things change. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it this year or not. Yeah, guys, I've got nothing. I've got nothing to say bad about this car besides the lack of power. But you know what? At the end of the day, I couldn't ask more for a daily driver. I have a draggy, so maybe one of these days I'll do a draggy of the Supra and the BRZ. Should be pretty interesting. We'll do like a rolling 0 to 60 or something, you know, I don't know. Both cars are very sluggish down low because, well, this car is NA and a low displacement motor, makes a little torque, and the Supra is a low compression turbo motor that is very sluggish in the bottom end and makes very little torque, so should be interesting. Anyways, I think that's gonna do it for the BRZ, guys. I don't really have too much wrong to say about the car. I love this car.